This message is intended as a reminder that we are not licensed professionals, not psychiatrists or psychologists. If you have a serious problem, please seek professional help. The National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255.
Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Hearing all these letters read aloud by damsels not in distress. Host came to impress. Bitch, check your DMs. This is hot off the press.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing well. What's going on with you?
Not too much. I'm starting Leslie Kahn's class tonight.
Oh, this is the first one?
Yeah.
So this is the intensive.
The comedy intensive is next. This is acting essentials.
Oh, acting essential. Okay. Well, you'll have a blast. It's a great class. Many of our guests have been from there, so it'll be a good time.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've just been feeling like a little overwhelmed, as we all are recently, about like what I'm doing and what I really want to focus on. And yeah, I don't know. I've always really been excited about acting, so I'm excited to take that class. But yeah, I don't know. It's just been kind of a weird time with like work and personal projects. Have you been feeling that?
Well, I think especially during this time, like when your life isn't as go anymore, it's hard to feel like, am I still on the correct path in achieving my goals? Because it's harder to see like your goals coming to fruition when you're just in your house all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just feel like, as you know, I'm like a little all over the place with like my ideas of the day. And
yeah.
I'm trying to do a better job of like narrowing that down a little bit more and focusing on like certain, you know what I mean? Like, cause it's like, they're always like, write it down and write like the steps that you need to get there and your goals. And like, like even with the podcast, like I feel like I have like new ideas for it every day, which you guys should go check out TikTok because I'm going to do podcast recaps now. But even that was like so exhausting putting that whole video together. Like I don't know how these kids do TikTok.
Oh, you already did it?
I did one last night. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't even seen it.
I'll send it to you. I'm just like putting stuff up on our page. And you're just blindly like, okay, cool.
I find out on the podcast.
Oh, I did. Yeah. Oh, you're just going to be a part of it where you're going to be like, because I do a recap of our first episode and how we had the brief sheet.
TikTok's going to get my information. God, it was going to happen one way or the other.
I know your face is in it, but not for too long. But
my friend Devin was making fun of me for still not getting one the other day.
I posted a couple times, but nothing really seems to be sticking.
You'll get there.
But yeah, I just think like as women too, we just have this like more pressure than men sometimes. I don't know, like I just like, and it's really funny because the guest that we have on today, she has a book called Toxic Femininity in the Workplace. And she kind of like touches on this a little bit and touches on how, women are sometimes held to a higher standard with the things that they put out and the work that they produce. And I feel that that is true, like have you had any experiences like
Well,
that?
my favorite is when you say something in a meeting and then somebody says the exact same thing as you, but regurgitates it in like a slightly different way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I literally just said that. And luckily I've been at my company for almost 3 years now, for 3 years, over 3 years. And so like I'm good enough friends with some of the guys there who if like they just heard me say something, they'll usually catch it because I've called it out so many times because I'm just at the point where like I'm not afraid where if I'm about to be walked over, like I will remind you. But I will say that like that took me 3 years. Whereas like a man, I feel like may have felt that same comfort within a much shorter period of time. And I only like feel comfortable asserting myself there because of like the time and the work that I've put in.
Well, that's great. And I feel like there's a lot of trainings and a lot of advice for men out there that is saying to do things like that. And that's something you can do to help your female colleagues. And yeah, and then Ginny, she has this really great, so the book stemmed off of a New Yorker article that she wrote. And she just gave some examples, like they were like fictional, but one was like, yeah, a woman presents her presentation in the meeting and everyone is good with all the hard work she put in and no one tries to make changes. Like no men talk over her and say this would be, and then like they finish the meeting 10 minutes early and have no idea what to do. And it's just like really good examples like that. So I was excited she can kind of come on and talk about this, because I think it's a good time to talk about this when there is so much work burnout, just how we can be helping each other.
Yeah. So let's chat with Ginny.
All right, so we're so excited to welcome Ginny Hogan to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
For having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. And Ginny is an LA-based comedian and writer. She's written for The New Yorker, a couple other outlets too, right, Ginny?
Yeah, I write for a few different places online, and I wrote a book last year. But yeah, I do a lot of comedy writing, and I write a lot of tweets. That's my primary mode.
Yes, and I've seen some of your tweets. My friends like message me some of your tweets all the time, and they're so. And then your book was based on a New Yorker article you wrote, correct?
It was, yeah. So I wrote a New Yorker article in probably early 2018. It was right at the start of the Me Too movement, and then from there I expanded.
Yeah, they were so funny. I was just reading some of the examples and some of the stuff in your book, and it's just amazing because you came from the tech world, right? And I'm sure that most of your coworkers were male. I mean, I have the opposite problem where I work with all females, but you're working with men almost all day.
Yeah, it was all men. Do you? Where do you work?
I'm in PR, so it's yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there were teams that had more women on it. My team, I worked at two different companies. I guess three. One was sort of a short stint, but I had a coworker who threw a chair one time and then eventually got fired. It was so weird.
And I really related so much to that one example that you had where there's a meeting and a woman presents her PowerPoint presentation and no one interrupts her and everyone just appreciates the hard work that she did, because I mean, it's just in anything, when you're in a meeting or a brainstorm and it just gets picked apart.
Yeah, totally.
I wanted to ask you if the examples in the article were those real examples based on people that you would talk to, or experiences that happened, or how did that happen?
Those are it's overall fictional, but it's based on some stuff, the one about people eating the food out of the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my coworkers called me out because I often did eat other people's food. Experiments are long, but I also have a really gross habit of eating food that other people believe has gone bad. I just don't have the same standard. And I don't really, I only sort of believe in refrigeration. But anyway, so I would eat other people's lunches if they'd been in there a while. But I was always getting interrupted in meetings, but I would get interrupted towards the end, I wouldn't even pay attention to meetings because I just assumed no one was going to ask me. And then one guy trying to be a fucking male feminist would ask me something when I was clearly on my phone and hadn't been listening at all, and I'd be so annoyed.
Well, it was so funny. I was just at that part in your book about are you a real feminist, a feminist just to be hitting on other people, or are you a loaf of bread? And I was literally cracking up reading that. Because it basically kind of breaks down are you doing this for the right reasons? Are you sticking up for women because you truly believe they deserve equal rights, or are you just trying to hit on
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's just very impossible to tell, or just desperate to consider yourself a male feminist.
No, it's funny because even my dad, when the whole Me Too thing was really popular, and he was well, you never gotten any weird messages or anything like that, and I was Dad, on a weekly, if not daily basis.
Yeah.
It's they're so far removed from just.
Well, one realization I had maybe a year ago, which was probably late for me to have this realization, is that men don't know as much about catcalling because women don't get catcalled when they're with men.
Yeah.
And it's just they don't realize how ubiquitous it is, because it's guys are way less likely to catcall someone who's with a guy.
Right, because they'll respect the guy, but forget about respecting the woman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I was watching this a TikTok video or something, and this girl was in this Uber, and the Uber driver was reaching his hand back and pretending he was looking for his phone under the seat, and kept touching her leg. She's is there a problem? Is there a problem? He's no, I'm just looking for my phone. And for some reason I really resonated with that, and I was what has I literally buried it down so far that one time I was on the metro in DC, and this really disgusting guy sat next to me and was doing something weird with his hand where he was on my thigh, getting close to my crotch, and I was pushing him away. But like I should have said something in the moment, but then you like kind of get scared for your life and like if they have a gun on them or something. But it was just interesting to me that I like resonated with it so much, and then I was like, oh yeah, because that's literally happened to me, and I've tried to like block it out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, oh God. I know it is insane how it's just like we suppress these things because it's too much to think about them all the time.
for sure, because I feel like the argument with like Christine Blasey Ford was like, well, she would remember this, right? And it's like, no, she actively is trying not to remember this. Like,
Yeah, and I don't know, did you read Chanel Miller's book, Know My Name?
I read like the first third and like couldn't get through it. Not because it wasn't good; it was just like really a lot. But I want to read it for sure.
It's a really good book, but she talks about the same thing with catcalling, and also she talks about the Chrissy Ford trials and how like any woman who has been through that sort of thing just like resonated so heavily with it, and it was like you couldn't, for women at least who have like experienced this type of thing, it was like no question that she was telling the truth, because like the courage it takes to get up to do that, and like nobody wants to talk about these experiences. I just remember like being in the gym and watching that and like just bawling my eyes out, like not being able to control it, because like you just know like what she was going through took so much strength.
Yeah, exactly. And to like get all those death threats and be in front of people. Yeah. No, I was definitely very emotional. And I also found, Chanel Miller's book, it was so well written, and it just like hit me so hard. But I also was in like probably like a particularly depressed place when I was reading it, but I would like to read it for sure. I read like one of her like humor pieces for the New Yorker recently, and it was so funny. She's like such a good writer.
She's really talented, yeah, in so many different ways.
But I was also watching one of your stand-up videos a little while ago when I was just kind of getting into stand-up around the LA scene. And it was so funny because you were doing your jokes, and the one set that you have recorded, I think you have a couple videos of. The one set, the one guy is just like, you say a joke and he's like, oh, that's funny. Like, that's funny. Do you know what I'm talking about?
People do that and I like hate it. Like, it's like, I get that they're trying to, it's just like laugh. Like, that's so dumb. I don't know. Yeah, I hate it. And it's just like a chance for them to kind of like interrupt what I'm doing, basically.
I know, because it was so funny because like, I just like, okay, great. She's got your approval, like to do stand up, like that she's already.
That's exactly what it is. It's like they're like, wait. I'm like, no. The normal response is to laugh. There's also like a Scrub. I don't know. Did you guys ever watch Scrubs?
Yes.
Okay. There's that when he's dating Mandy Moore, and like one of his complaints about her is that he doesn't laugh. She just says that's funny, and like I remember watching it like years ago and being like, oh, this is like supposed to be an example of a ridiculous complaint because who cares? But now I'm like, no, if I were dating someone who didn't laugh and just said that's funny, I would break up with them. Like, there's just like no way it would work out. Yeah.
It also feels like the syndrome of like he's being like, that's funny, but I'm like the funny judge.
Yes, like, I'm the arbiter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, I'll get like comments on YouTube videos that are like guys being like, I don't normally think women are funny, but this isn't bad. And I'm like, that's
oh my God, the worst.
I think that's nice, you know?
When you decided to write your book, is that when you stopped your career in tech, or did you like how did that transform to where you are now?
Yeah, so I worked in tech for 3 years. I was a data scientist, and I was at 3 different companies, and I mostly was on the engineering team. So almost all my coworkers were men. And a lot of them were just behaved so egregiously. I quit working in tech in like 2017, early 2017, and I had basically that whole year before then, I had been doing stand-up and working in tech, and I had just become like so obsessed with stand-up, and I was doing it like 4 or 5 hours a night, just way underwater at work. And like at first I had like a really easy job, and then I got switched to this more intense team. So like I was just like not sleeping, and everything was I was just like so burnt out. So I quit the tech industry, or I quit that job to take like a 3-month break and go stay at my parents in New York. And then I had intended to go back into tech, but I was living with my parents, and I had like picked up some like side work and was just like doing a lot of stand-up. So I just never ended up going back into it. But I got the book deal like almost a year after I had left my tech job. And it was like that year, and not that like once I got I haven't like worked odd jobs, not even odd jobs, but like recently I've only had writing jobs, which is cool, but I don't even like, it's not that if I, in the next 2 years work a job that's not a writing job, I'll feel like I haven't been succeeding at writing. But like in the year that I was making like no money writing and I quit the tech industry, I was like very like kind of lost and just didn't know what I was doing and didn't know if I'd ever be able to like make money at comedy. So that was like very so getting the book was sort of like the first, it felt like kind of like the first break. And I continued to I've worked as like an SAT tutor, and I was like a dating writer for a while and stuff. So I've had a bunch of jobs in between, but like that's kind of the first time I was like, oh, I think I can like make comedy work as a career. But like it took a year of not doing anything else, which was almost like a bad idea. Like I would kind of recommend people not quit their main job until they like have some indication that they're going to make money at comedy, because it was just like a pretty like brutal year.
Yeah.
I worked in tech and did stand up. Like I had some coworkers who wanted to come to my shows, and they did. And it was like a fratty, like it was like a mortgage company with a lot of finance people, and it like everyone went out and partied all the time and stuff. So it wasn't that weird that coworkers wanted to come, but I like didn't really want my boss to know. And like by the end of it, I was doing stand up like 7 nights a week. And I one time directly, my boss asked how often I did it, and I said like I did it twice a week. And then like a week later, I quit my job, and I was like, I'm gonna go do this thing I told you that I mean, I didn't say it was to do comedy, but it was like very just like clear that I had been sort of hiding
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's funny. He's like, how often do you do it? You're like, I'm making a video now, so you could
Yeah,
just
exactly. Yeah, I'm tweeting in this meeting. And, like, yeah.
So you are in tech, and it's kind of interesting. Like, I don't want to like pigeonhole like which side of your brain like you're using more, but it is kind of interesting that you were in this tech field. And like, I guess when were you starting to feel like, you know, maybe you weren't being fulfilled by like that corporate job, or like was there any kind of inspiration behind like the comedy and the writing?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. I worked at Facebook, and they gave us ad credit as like an employee benefit, and I was like, this is so dumb. Who wants this? But I decided, since I had free Facebook ads, I was going to like run dating ads for myself, and like just as like a joke. And then I was a data scientist, so I like crunched some numbers on it and like wrote a blog post about it. And then I had so much fun writing the blog post. And the blog post, like initially, it was like pretty like statistical, and like I wanted to find some like statistically relevant result. But I kept doing this with like other parts of my dating life. Like I scraped data from like OkCupid and like that kind of thing. And I just kept like writing this blog that was ostensibly a data blog, but like it became more and more joke heavy. And I started to get like angry emails from like statisticians being like, your statistics are not rigorous. And I was like, I could not give two shits. Like, please leave me alone. But that's sort of when I got into comedy, and I was like, oh, maybe I like writing funny things. But then I would say I was never particularly fulfilled by like, I studied math in college, and then I studied statistics for a year, and I really liked the academic pursuit of those things. And but once I started working in tech, I was never really fulfilled by the work. Like programming can be fun, and it can be fun to like solve a problem or whatever, but like so much of what I was doing was like making graphs, or like even worse, like some corporate person higher up would be like, we need to show that this trend is going up, whether or not the trend is actually going up. So like sort of like how to like manipulate the data to get some false result. That's like what I spent like most of the time doing. And I basically, my boss at the last company I worked at, he like had left, and I didn't have a new boss for like a month. And tech startups are so disorganized that like I had a month where I like had nothing to do, so I signed up for a stand-up comedy class, and then like that was just kind of like the end of it. I never wanted to do my job again, and I kept doing my job for like a year and a half. But like like any free moment at work, I would like write jokes and stuff, and it was just like so much more fulfilling and fun.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your dating ads and how you were using your dating life as part of your comedy?
Yeah, totally. So the dating ads, like I have been I mean, the weird thing is like I've actually, I like say that I'm always single. I've had a lot of boyfriends, but they're always kind of short lived. So like I've mostly been single since I was like 22. And I like just I was obsessed with dating apps as soon as I got on them. I just found them so fascinating. And with the ads, like I just thought it was so funny to think about like trying to advertise myself as like a product basically, and be like people used to date off dating ads, and it sort of seemed like a weird combination of like, you know, that like pina colada song, and then like what people are doing with like
Yeah.
apps. So I just thought it was like kind of funny. But in terms of using it in my comedy, like I think like my comedy came and probably still comes from like a place of like self-deprecation, and that's kind of like the ultimate thing. Like it's like part of what's so funny, or what was so funny to me about the blog, that like it's like for me to get a lot of data, on online dating, I had to be so bad at online dating because otherwise I would have like found a boyfriend. But it was like I went on like over 100 first dates in like 2 years or something, and it's like you just have to be really bad at first dates to go on that many, but like
Yeah.
it like was so easy to make fun of myself for it because I was just like so bad at it. And I think it also came from a place of like, and it still is true with my comedy, where like if I make fun of myself or something, it like it's almost like I'm getting something out of a thing that otherwise would just be bad. Like it's like I could be going on all these bad dates and just feel bad about myself, and that sucks. But I could use it in my comedy, and then I'm like at least like repurposing it. So I think in terms of using dating in my comedy, it comes from a place of being like genuinely unsuccessful at it.
Yeah.
That's basically the same thing Hannah said about how like using it in her comedy ends up being like a useful time
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
Well, I like to think that the steps, because I feel like I'm very bad at it too, and I've frequented the apps over the years, but I would like to see stats too of like men that just like are not mentally stable on there, because
Exactly.
there's
Yeah.
just so many weirdos. I sound like my mom. Like
Yeah.
there's so many weirdos on there, but like there are like I didn't think it would be like as stupid as it sounds. Like I didn't think it'd be that hard to find a boyfriend. And, like
Yeah. And I think like, yeah, that's so true. And I also, when I say bad at it, I don't even mean like bad at like getting a guy attracted to me, even though I often feel the way, but like bad at figuring out who to go out with. Like there were so many times where I just agreed to go out with someone who I'm like, if I had thought about this for 10 minutes, I would have known it'd be a waste of time. Like I was like bad at every level of it. Like I just would like, yeah, like it, but the people are crazy for sure. Like there were so many online dates I had that were just like so insanely boring. And I'm like, why didn't I talk to this person for like 5 minutes beforehand?
I know my therapist is literally like, you could like be a little bit more selective, Chloe, and like usually it's like the opposite of like someone being too picky. But
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like I don't have a certain type, so like I kind of like let a lot of different people in. But then yeah, like you said, it's like what's nice now is like FaceTime dating and kind of screening
I
that,
loved it. Yeah. It's
which
so
we should talk about because did you meet your boyfriend during quarantine or?
I did. Yeah. Yes. Are you actively in the FaceTime dating right now?
Yeah, I'm in and out of it. I'm pretty burnt out on that too. I gotta be honest. Like I was telling Lauren the other day, like I just jumped on a FaceTime date and the guy started talking and I was like, I don't care what you're saying right now. Like I'm just kind of burnt out on dating right now. But in the beginning, I was like getting a glass of wine. I was like, let's FaceTime.
Yeah. I used to, I would schedule like 3 in one night because it was the only day I'd put makeup on. Like, like it was like
Knock them out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny because like I've been in a relationship for a while and I feel like the dating apps are definitely glorified to like non-single people because like they're these curated images. So when you see your friends like swiping right and left, it feels like, oh wow, like that actually like looks fun. Like that seems, but then you hear stories like this and it sounds so awful because like I've never been on a dating app. So my remembrance of single life is like in college where you're meeting people all the time. And I feel like when I tell my single friends now, like being single is the best time of your life. Like enjoy it. Like remember this time. Then it's like it's skewed now because with people meeting on the apps and having that basically with quarantine being the only time where you can meet people, it's no longer like what single life used to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, college single life was like very fun. Well, but it like objectively was like pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's so true that the apps are just like this glorified version. And even like FaceTiming someone, it's like if the FaceTime date's only like half an hour, they might really be like on in a way that they're not. Like,
That's true. But it is just nice like to like do a little screening because like even like when I was like FaceTiming people, there was this one guy and like I've talked about him before, like we had really good text conversation and we FaceTimed and it was like he was a little socially awkward and I was like, well at least like in the past, like in the old days, like it's like I would have had to like get in an Uber and like sit there at like drinks with him and like all right, how like looking at the exit, like how do I get out of here? Like and it's just kind of nice to do a little screening. But did you meet your current boyfriend on an app?
I did, yeah. We met on Hinge. Also, your cat is very cute. I can't tell if it's far away.
He usually is locked in the bathroom, but today we're letting him out. So.
Yeah, we met on Hinge and we like the weird thing, this is like so dramatic of me, but not really because it's like quarantine and nothing is crazy anymore. Like, but I had been like I had a month-to-month apartment in LA that like sucked and I had like given notice on it and booked a flight back to New York because I like my parents live there, and I was like, I'll just save some money on rent if I'm gonna like be super depressed. And then I went on like a FaceTime date with him, and it was like 3 hours. I still had my apartment for another month. Like I'd already paid through the month, and so then I like canceled my flight, and I was like, okay, if this is gonna like, I was just like, I mean, it was definitely my best FaceTime date. Although I actually had some like pretty decent FaceTime dates, and I met up with a few people in person. But I had one really good other FaceTime date with a guy who then dumped me because of my tweets, which was like just too much. But like we FaceTime for like 2 hours a different night. But anyway, Sam, my boyfriend, the FaceTime date was just like so good, and then he like asked me immediately if I wanted to hang out in person, like the next like in the next 2 days. And like the date we had scheduled was like the day before my flight. And I was like, am I going to go on a date with him and then be like, by the way, I'm moving tomorrow? Like, that's just like weird. So yeah, then I canceled my flight, and then it kind of just like, just kept going consistently from there. And then the nice thing is that the people I was subletting from, I was kind of just like, can I just stay one more month just to like feel this out? And they really wanted me to, because it's impossible to get anyone to fill anything right now. So like the housing ended up being pretty simple.
Wait, can we go back to he dumped you because of your tweets?
Yeah, it was so crazy. I mean, I was really upset about Tara Reid and Biden, and like, not even upset about it. It's just like, I had tweeted something about it and the responses were really crazy. And so I was like tweeting about like sexual assault, which made it even worse, because I was like, dude, I don't think you want people to know that. I don't think you should have like connected it to like me complaining about sexual assault, kind of like that was sort of like, it was so weird. But like he was mad that, I mean, my tweets are mostly like silly, and then every once in a while I'm serious, and this was like a more serious thread of tweets, and it was all on the same topic. And it was just like very strange. I don't know. Like I was like pretty grossed out by, he seemed really excessively sort of like corporate and like kind of like obsessed with like optimizing and stuff. But like we had a really nice conversation, and we had like plans to meet up in person, and like it was just so weird. But he broke up with me before we met up in person. It was just like very weird.
I was going to say, like, your article is relatively serious too, and what led to the premise of your book, that it feels weird that he didn't know that like that's part of you, right?
Exactly. And like I always think that my online persona is gonna like turn people off. But I like my Twitter can be sexually explicit, like my stand-up sexually explicit, and then I have stuff that's more serious, and I'm like pretty open about like I'm open about stuff related to like addiction and everything, and I just like want someone to know like as soon as possible, and to not have someone like learn that later and be turned off, basically. So I was glad, honestly, that it like happened earlier and that he had like Googled me, but it was very weird. Yeah. Like, he hadn't Googled me before the first date, which is also normal. It's like there's now so much information on any one person that like you can't do that much research before a first date.
Yeah, well, we talk about this a lot, like while I'm dating and doing this podcast and like making jokes and talking about men,
Right.
like. And we talked to Dana a little bit about it too, and she was like, "Yeah, back when I had like 500 followers, some guy dumped me because I like tweeted about him or tweeted about my ex or something." But it sounds like this guy was like a little bit more mad about like the political tweets, or
Yeah, the tweets were definitely not at all connected to him. He was mad. I think like he was mad that I was just being kind of like contentious, because it was like, I mean, I will tweet out a lot of contentious things, and I get in arguments with people about politics, but like it was like I guess like people were maybe being more like, I was being angrier, and more people were coming at me than usual or whatever. Yeah, but I've had guys get mad about tweets. I'm trying to think of what, like, it happened more in the beginning of my stand-up, when like guys would think any joke about like an arbitrary sex thing was about them, even though like so little of my sex jokes are about specific people. Like it's more like if it's like a specific reference to something, like then that's like more likely to be like, my boyfriend now is like obsessed with David Lynch, which is just like kind of, it's, I mean, I'm trying
I saw your tweet today that said like he talked to me about David Lynch and told me more about him than I told you about David Lynch.
I'm like, I know that David Lynch is like a common obsession, but I'm trying to figure out what are like the stereotypes about people who are obsessed with David Lynch, so I can like narrow in this bet, because he's like really obsessed with David Lynch. But anyway, that stuff is like about a particular person. I don't know. Have you had guys like be gone on dates with guys who were like, oh, we listen to the podcast?
The guy that I'm currently seeing listens, and it just was like he was listening to previous episodes where I'm talking about like my bad dates and like how I hooked up with my neighbor and like all this stuff, and he's been extremely cool about it, which I appreciate, but I'm just like, I like that you're supporting me, you're being cool about this, because it's just like not every day. Like you don't start dating girls and then hear about their immediate dating history right away.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
a new experience. So
Yeah.
he's like really cool and supportive of it, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
But so your current boyfriend, is he in comedy or?
He's not. He is in entertainment though, which is good.
Okay.
Like a musician. He writes the score for like film and TV shows.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's good because it's like he knows a lot about the industry, but we don't have any like professional overlap. I will say one big difference is like social media is not at all a big part of his career. Like it's not. He's personally not into it. I don't think it would like do like it's just not a focus of what he does. So like the social media stuff with like Twitter is like pretty. I feel like is I'm always worried he's gonna be like so weirded out by it, but he also is like very chill about it. And anytime I tweet something about him, I like run it by him if it's like clear that he's like kind of the butt of the joke. Like if it's me making fun of my own neurotic stuff, I'll just tweet it. But if
Yeah, my boyfriend, I talk about him a lot on this, and he listens to it before we publish it, and he'll always be like, cut that part out, like get to the tea of the podcast. Like none of that is interesting. Like I want to hear about the other girl's drama.
yeah, that's so funny. It's funny that he's like trying to get you to like edit out stuff about him, but like saying it's like, oh no, it's to streamline the podcast.
Yeah. Well, I'm also like way nicer to him on the podcast than I am on real life. I feel like, 'cause it's like from it, like I can recognize we have like a healthy relationship, but like to him, I'm not going to be like, I just don't feel the need to like do a lot of things for him and like be super nice to him in person. So it's like, I feel like the relationship I portray on here is like different than like our actual dynamic.
How long have you been with your boyfriend?
5 years. So we're like extremely comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't be nice to someone for 5 years. That's
No.
Have you dated comedians in the past?
I have, and it has not. I mean, some of them were. Well, I've like slept with a lot of comedians. I guess I had one boyfriend who was a comedian, and he was really nice. We didn't date for that long, and then consider him like a really good person, and we didn't have any like super intense conflicts. But one thing is like, he did this thing. We were dating around the time we were dating when the article "Examples of Toxic Femininity" came out, and then like in the next like month, I got like a manager and like I sort of felt like stuff had started to move professionally, and he was very much like he already like had a manager and was like further along, and he was very much like, okay, well, like don't get your hopes up, like just so you know, like people get like, you know, I just don't want you to like get like people get a lot of these intro emails and it doesn't go anywhere and stuff, which is true. You know, it's weird because like my manager's the first person who ever like emailed me from the industry, and but since then I've had so many intro emails that didn't go anywhere, but like he just definitely kept trying to be like, don't, you know, like, don't let it all go to your head. Like, it's going to move really slowly or whatever, which, like, ultimately it did. But it just happened that at the time that we were dating, things were, like, moving a little bit faster. But that's, like, my only, like, gripe with dating him, my only, like, comedy related gripe about him. And then I, like, was sleeping with this comedian for, like, months and months in New York who was, like, just, like, very negative on my career and, like, just kind of, like, took every opportunity to, like, they're like, oh, you only got booked because you're a woman or like this and that. Like he was just like the worst. That was like a really negative dating a comedian experience. But other than that, and then there were just like a bunch of people I've like slept with or gone on random dates with who were like mostly fine.
But it sounds like you found some compatibility on the dating apps, and our letter today deals with someone who is not. So it says, Dear Damsels, I'm a young woman who lives in New York City. I've been single for with, but I hate the dating apps. I never feel like I make a genuine connection with someone on them and have never gotten past a third date. I connect with people better when I meet them in person through mutual friends or an activity because I'm all about personality and I don't really have a type. It can be really limiting, especially during a time like this when you're not really meeting new people. Do I push myself to go through with the apps even though I don't enjoy them? Or do I just accept that I'm going to be single for a bit until things start opening up more? Sincerely, all about the vibes.
In terms of waiting for things to open back up, like I feel like even when like bars were open and stuff, I still like had zero luck meeting people out in the real world. But you can always accept being single for a while if it just like makes you happier or something, you know.
Yeah, or if you're burnt out, which it sounds like I like, as I was talking earlier, like I was feeling really burnt out and I still am. And it's okay to take a break and then just kind of see how this new world continues to unfold. And then, you know, like once you have that break and kind of have that refresher to like get back to yourself, go back on them would be probably my main piece of advice.
I relate though to like, because I have like I think I have just very particular standards over like personality, and I am pretty like, in terms of like looks, like I definitely have like a type that I think is more attractive, but I also like, if I met someone with a cool personality, I like would not care what they look like. And like it does make online dating so much harder, because it's just like you can get a much better sense of what someone looks like before you've met them than you can like their personality. So it does just like, it kind of just requires going on many more dates basically.
I feel the same way. Sometimes I'll see like an attractive person and be like, but they probably have a horrible personality. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm really like conscientious, and definitely have like certain qualifications they need to meet personality wise. And that's, I kind of agree with you, Chloe, that like it probably is best to just take a break while, if it's not working out on the apps, because you're right. Like I think you can definitely get burnt out on them. We hear that all the time. And honestly, like we've talked about before, and I know this gets redundant, but like taking a class or doing anything to like spice up your daily routine. Because one, you can meet people, but like not even just for the meeting people point, but just that like there's something else in your life that's giving you interest, which then I feel like you'll be focusing on that, that when you do decide to like go back on the apps, or like who knows when things will be open, but I wouldn't wait forever for that. You can have a little bit more interest when you get back into it.
It's like we were talking earlier, like I were like, you get on these apps and like you said, Ginny, like they're so superficial that you're like, okay, I'm only gonna let 5'11" like brunette men in. But then like I've met people in person and it's like all that criteria goes out the window because I'm getting along with them and like they're, you know what I mean? Like, or I met them in a class, like in like an in-person class whenever they were available. But it's just so hard on the apps because yeah, you don't get a feel for this person. And I would also say, like we're saying earlier, like do the FaceTime dates if you're like not sure. Like don't just go like rush out and like meet people without kind of screening them and like seeing what they're like first.
Yeah. Yeah, two of the guys in the last like 2 years who I had like a really good connection with were both people I probably would not have like swiped right on a dating app, and like I just met them through other means, and they kind of like, I hadn't started thinking about whether or not I was interested in them when I started talking to them, and then they just like, I just found my personalities very appealing. So it's hard on dating apps because it's like you want to be picky and you want to make sure you're not going out with people who are going to waste your time, but then you're also probably saying no to people who like could be good matches. Yeah. So I would also just recommend taking a break, and then like it's just so nice. Like I feel like it makes a world of difference to go into the date like assuming that it will be good, and if you've been on like a bunch of bad dates in a row, that's like harder to do. So if you like take a break and like rest up, I think that can be really helpful.
Also, how many guys on there like don't photograph very well?
If a guy photographs really well and then is like way ugly in person, it's like, that's I feel more,
Yeah.
I'd rather they be bad in pictures.
That's true.
I was just talking about that with my friend, my girlfriend who's my neighbor. I was like, who would take like, and like I don't know, it's hard because you're like digging through like and trying to like, you want to find like this gem who just doesn't take very good pictures but is so great in person. But then you have these guys on there taking like model shots of them like walking down the street, like taking their like sunglasses off, and like I'm like, who's taking these for you? And like also like no, like I just, I mean, that like tells you a lot about their personality too. If they're like having like shots like in front of like, you know, like the ones in front of their car and stuff. I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, no.
Yeah, you want
You're
an
like, you're not
Instagram
missing out.
boyfriend,
Right. Yeah.
not them to be the boyfriend that's on Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because you see all these people that are like so big on TikTok now. Like there's this one guy that's really popular and does all these like funny TikTok videos, and all these girls are like, oh, I want to date him. I want to date him. But it's like, imagine dating him and he's like, hey, I need you to leave. Like, I need to film like my TikTok videos for today. And you're just like,
yeah. I mean, I'm like always like trying to take photos of myself, and like I was at my boyfriend's parents' house, and like it was off timer, like because they just had like an interesting looking chair, and I was like, oh my god, if they walk in on me right now, I'm gonna be like mortified. Like it's their first time meeting me, and I'm like their son's new girlfriend who's taking photos of herself at like 6 a.m. Like it's brutal.
yeah, like we're in showbiz. I don't know what to tell you. Your son's with someone in showbiz. Like, do you have any other advice for her? Just take a break.
I think taking a break is great. Yeah, and it's like I think that people are like gonna have a new lease on life kind of when stuff starts to open up, and I bet people will be like, even if it's like, I think it's like people will be friendlier to each other just like in public spaces, and it might, as much, I'm sorry I said the thing about how I couldn't meet people at bars. That was probably very pessimistic, but like it might be, even before bars and stuff are open, it might be easier to meet someone in like a socially distanced way, like a newfound optimism once the city comes back to life a little
No,
bit.
I feel the same way as you were saying too. It's like I always say I'd love to meet someone organically, and then you go out with like these like hopes of meeting your soulmate, and you're just like sitting at the bar for 2 hours and you're like, okay, can we just go home and eat snacks now? Like it's just like, but yeah, like you were saying, like now, like it's like people are gonna kind of cherish those interactions a little bit more. So she might have a little bit more luck when things open up.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, well, thank you for coming on, Jenny. It was awesome having you.
Fun.
And then do you want to plug where people can find you, like your Instagram and Twitter and stuff?
Yeah, I'm Ginny Hogan _ on Instagram and Twitter. Ginny with an I, and I tweet a lot. So if you like tweets, you can go find them there.
Buy her book too. It's amazing. Toxic Femininity in the Workplace.
Yeah, I link to it on my Twitter. Thank you so much for reading it and for getting it.
Of course. I needed some more pool books, so that was a really, really good read.
Do you have a pool at your apartment?
I do. It's been like life-saving.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm very jealous.
Well, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great virtually meeting you.
That's
I
great.
always just say, wow. They're always such great chats. I have nothing else to say, but it was great. Okay. Phenomenal woman. I love a boss lady.
Yes, she's great. So excited she came on. I think I've seen her do stand up too. It's funny because like all these open mics beforehand, I feel like some of these people still frequent them. So
Yeah.
it's cool to see them there, but then like see how established they are and talk to them personally too.
She also reminded me that, so our chat with Jimmy, when we were talking about like how nobody was going to do improv classes, like improv was over, cue me saying that a few weeks ago. I just signed up for another improv class that I am doing over Zoom.
With who? Is it Groundlings?
Groundling. Yeah, I'm doing the intermediate level. And I'm such a loser because we were like, are they gonna like offer intermediate? Like, how can you do it if it's over Zoom? Cue to me signing up for it.
Well, that's exciting. You have to let us know how it goes.
I just decided it was time to get back in, and yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be a fun thing to do over Zoom. I felt like you, just wanted to like shake up the career stuff a little bit, and it seemed like a fun thing to do.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Go follow Ginny on everything.
Write us letters.
Write us the letters. Follow our social medias.
Apparently follow the TikTok, which I've never looked at in my entire life.
Follow
I
the
hope you
TikTok.
enjoy.
I believe I'm going to start investing more time into the TikTok. I don't want to make promises, but
She believes.
we'll see how the videos do.
It's going down in the DMs.
Bye, guys.